seated. We're back on the record in 14 CR 1432. Mr. Jones does appear in custody. He's represented by Ms. Smith and also Mr. Colvin, and Mr. Rubenstein and Mr. Wade are both here for the people. We're outside the presence of our jury, but our jury is ready. So are we ready for the jurors to return to the court, Mr. Rubenstein?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Colvin?
We are, Judge.
All right. Thank you. I'll go ahead and call for him. Hi, Joanne. We're ready for the jury. Thank you. Bye.
But you didn't think highly enough of her to not obstruct the law enforcement investigation into her disappearance, right?
That could be a correct statement, yes.
Okay. So you didn't think highly enough of your friend to make sure that law enforcement was able to clearly and freely investigate her case?
No.
Did I hear you correctly? I want to make sure I understood this correctly when you were talking to Mr. Rubenstein, that it's a natural progression from a business relationship to a sexual relationship if you've had sex with that person before? Is that what you
To
said?
me, that is what I said, yes.
Okay. So let me make sure I understand that correctly. Because you had had sex with Ms. Bergfeld one time in 1999, when you met up with her again at a farmer's market and got stuff going with Pampered Chef, it was just natural to then start having sex with her?
There was electricity and feelings, yes.
Okay, so there was enough electricity and feelings from that one time in Durango
Yes.
to propel this relationship 6 years later?
And conversations and respect.
Okay. Now, the weekend that Ms. Bergfeld went missing, it sounds like you remember what you did and who you were with, right?
I do.
And that you stayed home both Thursday and Sunday evenings with your wife like you'd just done thousands of times before?
Correct.
Now, that Friday, after Ms. Bergfeld went missing, you remember telling, I can't remember who you told, law enforcement or your boss, that you had a court hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Now, But you can't remember if you actually had the court
I
hearing?
can't remember.
Okay. Now, court hearing isn't, I know you've had a lot of legal problems, but court hearings weren't particularly routine, right?
No.
And would you agree, Mr. Heald, that it's just, throughout the course of this, you've just told so many lies, you can't remember what was a lie and what wasn't, so you can't remember if you had that court hearing or not?
Lies are hard to remember. Truth is easy to remember.
Okay, but you can't remember if it's the truth if you...
I'm being honest. I'm telling you the truth. I don't remember if I had a court hearing that day.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I did, but I can't say with 100% certainty.
Okay. So you can't say with 100% certainty when you told the law enforcement officer or your boss that you had a court hearing that morning if it was true or not?
I can't remember.
Did you, you explained to Mr. Rubenstein how you didn't want to go with your wife that weekend down to Albuquerque. And did I understand you correctly that you were happy not to go with her?
There were work things that I did need to take care of on Friday, and I felt that they were a priority versus the trip.
Okay. So were you happy not to go with your wife to see her parents?
I was happy not to make the trip.
Okay. And were her parents elderly and
Yes,
ailing at
they
the
are.
time?
They have since passed away.
Okay. So at the time, were they ailing?
Not to my knowledge. They were both functioning well.
Oh, okay. Did I also understand you correctly that after you were in a community corrections program in Denver and you stayed in Denver?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then Ms. Thompson joined you in Denver?
Yes.
Did you, just to clarify a little bit more about this track phone, did you buy the track phone? No, let me ask this again. When you called your lawyer on the track phone pretending to be a doctor saying that you had cancer, was that because it helped you not have to pay your attorney as much money as quickly?
Yes.
When you made that suicide attempt, you were at home, right?
Yes.
Who found you?
CBI agent.
Okay. And why were CBI agents looking for you?
I missed a court appearance that morning.
Okay. So is that why you went from the psychiatric hospital right directly to jail? Is because you'd failed to appear in court?
No. I went to the psychiatric hospital because the mental health counselor at the hospital said I should go there.
Right.
And I've already testified to that.
Okay. My question was, why did you go directly from the psychiatric hospital to
Because they'd
jail?
issued a warrant for me because I missed court.
Okay. Now, you have since learned, okay, so you call law enforcement right after Ms. Bergfeld's missing to tell them what you knew about Mr. Dixon, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And him coming into town around the same time.
Exactly.
You've since learned that he wasn't in town around that time.
I did.
Okay. But rewinding back to 2007, when you make that call to law enforcement, you were thinking that this could be a potential alternate suspect that would detract from you.
To be frank, that is not what I thought. What I thought was when a woman goes missing, the husband or ex-husband is the prime suspect.
Okay.
I knew he was going to be here, and I felt that information was key for them to know.
Okay.
There was absolutely no motivation on my part to defer a suspect away from me.
Okay. Even though you too recognized yourself as a potential prime
Yes.
suspect.
This was to do the correct thing.
Okay.
Had nothing to do with me.
Okay, was it similar to how you did the correct thing in August by wasting law enforcement's time with your lies?
No, it's not.
Okay, was it a different correct thing you did?
It wasn't a correct thing at all, and we've already established that.
Okay. Now, you indicated that You indicated that some of my questions, well, let me make sure. You indicated that some of my questions frustrate you, right? Is that fair to say?
They do.
Okay. And is that because it's frustrating to be accused of a murder that you didn't commit?
It would be frustrating to be accused of something you didn't do.
Okay.
But believe me, I'm not the victim here. And the consequences for those bad choices 10 years ago are still here today and will be forever. What
Okay.
frustrates me most about your questions is you ask questions you've already asked and had answered.
Okay. Were you also frustrated when you first talked to law enforcement, that face-to-face interview, when you first talked to them and you realized that in your lying you had created a $50,000 motive for yourself?
Yeah, I was frustrated.
Okay. And then did you also get frustrated when you realized your friend went missing because you realized your life would get unraveled by her disappearance?
I expected that my life was already unraveling.
Okay.
And that would contribute to
Okay.
it, yes.
And that was another frustration or concern
Yes.
for yourself? Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein, recross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Heald, would it refresh your memory as to whether or not you had court to look at the register of actions of your court case?
I don't understand the question.
You said you didn't remember whether or not you actually had court that day. My question is, would it refresh your memory
Yes.
to look at the register of
Sure,
actions of that
it
case?
would.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
And just for the record, for defense counsel, I'm just thinking of the Delta County 6 CR 55 case.
Okay, can I see this?
Sure. First, sir, let me just scroll up to the top and make sure you agree that this is your case.
Sorry,
Yeah.
could you turn the microphone?
I'm sorry, Judge.
Thank you so much.
If you could just make...
It is.
That's your case, 06 CR 55 from Delta County?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to scroll down. So this was the day after, so this was June 29th, 2007 that you're talking about?
Yes.
Do you see an entry for June 29th, 2007?
I do.
If I could have you just read that and let me know.
This
if that-
matter comes for an
No, no,
appearance.
I'm sorry. Just read it to yourself to see if that refreshes your memory as to what was going on in your case at that time.
I appeared in court.
Okay, thank you. I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Smith,
No follow-up.
okay, is he under subpoena, and if so, is he released from his subpoena, Ms. Smith?
He is under our subpoena. I would ask that he not quite be released. We will ask for his release very soon.
Okay, thank you. Sir, you're still under subpoena. Stay in touch with the lawyers, please. You're free to go at this moment, though. Thank you. Are we still staying with the defense case at this point? Okay, thank you. So, Ms. Smith, your next witness.
Hassan.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. Just be careful, this black court, I need to give you an oath before you testify. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, Your Honor. All right, thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair, please. And then you can proceed whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Can you please state your name?
Yes, my name is Hassan, Hassan, same first and last name.
Are you a sergeant at the sheriff's office?
Yes.
Okay, here in Mesa County?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you interview Stephen Heald on September 6th of 2007?
September 6th?
Oh, yeah, good
I
point.
don't believe so.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did you interview him on August 14th of 2007?
That sounds accurate, yes.
Okay. Looks like maybe you wrote the report on September 6th.
That could be.
Okay. Did he tell you about his relationship with Ms. Bergfeld during that conversation?
Yes, he did.
And did he indicate, what period of time did he tell you he had been paying Ms. Bergfeld for sex?
Well, he said their relationship began in 1999, took a hiatus until 2005, and then from that point forward until 2007.
Okay. Did he also tell you that he had been paying her for sex for a period of 4 to 5 years, but more actively in the last year?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein, cross-examination.
Thank you. Sergeant, first, most people at the sheriff's office do not have beards like yours, is that correct?
Not quite as glamorous as mine, yes.
What is the reason for your current appearance?
Currently, I'm a supervisor with the Western Colorado Drug Task Force.
Okay, and that often involves having a different appearance than a normal officer?
Yes.
Okay. Would you agree that the two statements of he'd been paying her consistently for 4 to 5 years and he saw her in 1999 and then again in 2005 would be inconsistent with each other?
I'm sorry, say that one more time?
Well, as I understood your testimony, you said that he both told you that he had a relationship with her in 99, took a hiatus until 2005, and then also that he had been paying her for 4 to 5 years consistently.
Yes.
Would you agree that those two statements are not consistent with each other?
Given those timeframes, yes.
Okay, because at the time you were interviewing him, it was 2007.
That's
If
correct.
the first were to be true, the second couldn't be true.
Correct.
Okay. Did you follow up to figure out,
I didn't. No.
is it possible you misunderstood one of them?
It could very well have been, yes.
Okay, nothing further, thank you.
Redirect, Ms. Smith.
Oops. Is it also possible that instead of you just misunderstanding him, he was actually providing you with inconsistent information in the course of the interview?
If you're asking for my opinion, I suppose it's possible, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you, that's it.
Mr. Rubenstein.
Nothing based on that, sir.
Is he under subpoena, and if so, released, or Ms. Smith?
He is under subpoena, he is not released.
All right, you're still under subpoena, sir. Just stay in touch with the lawyers. You're free to go at this point, though.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And now the
Defense witness, Ms. Smith.
Sergeant Weiler.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thanks. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, sir.
You can proceed whenever you're ready with your direct, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, Sergeant Weiler.
Good afternoon.
Sir, can you state your name for the record?
Wayne Weiler, W-E-Y-L-E-R.
In the case of the disappearance of Ms. Bergfeld, did you interview a person named Stephen Heald?
I did on August 14th of 2007.
And in the course of that, would you agree that that interview sort of had two parts to it?
Yes,
Okay, so there was one part when Mr. Heald was explaining to you about Ms. Bergfeld extorting him?
correct?
And
Yes.
then another part where he explained about him laundering money to pay her?
There were several other parts besides it, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he tell you, when he was explaining to you this extortion scheme, did he tell you that he saw Ms. Bergfeld with a camera?
He did, yes.
And did he explain that that's why he believed she had the ability to tell his wife and his boss about their sexual relationship?
He did. Basically, he had stated that she had had a camera when they were having sex one time and that she had taken pictures and that she asked for $50,000.
Did Mr. Heald, in the course of this interview, talk to you about having sex with Ms. Bergfeld in Durango?
He did, yes.
Did he describe that as him having a sexual relationship with her in Durango?
He did, yes.
How many times did he say that he had had sex with Ms. Bergfeld in Durango?
It would test my memory. I believe it was 2 or 3 times, maybe 4 times.
Okay. Did you conduct this interview of Mr. Heald with Investigator Gerald?
I did.
Okay, so this was a similar team, so to speak, as that interrogation you did of Mr. Jones?
It was an interrogation, yes.
Did you record it?
I did.
Did anybody write a report on it?
I did, yes.
And when did you write that report?
I think in 2014.
Okay, so did anybody write a report about it in 2007 after it occurred?
They did not, no.
And why did it take almost 7 years to get a report written on it?
I can't say for sure. Again, there was a videotape done of it. I'm assuming Investigator Gerald was supposed to do that, but she did not.
Okay, she was supposed to write the report and didn't?
Correct.
So then, did Investigator Habenstreit ask you to write this report?
He did.
Did you use it to refresh your recollection before you testified today?
I did, yes.
Did you go back and watch the recorded video?
I did not, no.
Did you go back and ask for a transcript to be written so that you could review the transcript before your testimony?
I did not.
So would you agree that it was helpful to have this report that you wrote for this?
Yes.
And would you agree then that reports are important in law enforcement work so that, for example, in a situation like this, you could rely on it to refresh your memory with a summary rather than having to go back and watch a 3-hour interview?
Both can be important. I can review a summary, or I can review the videotape, or I could read the transcript, so all of them are helpful.
Okay, but in case you did choose to read the report rather than go back and watch that video?
That is correct.
Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein, cross-examination. Thanks.
Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
You talked with Ms. Smith about this. She mentioned the idea of this having 2 parts. You had indicated it actually had more than 2 parts.
There were several parts to it, yes.
There was a point where Mr. Heald was confronted about the extortion, right?
Correct, I did confront him.
And specifically what you confronted him with is didn't you just tell him you just didn't believe that happened?
That is correct. Basically, I said it was time for him to tell the truth, and at that point, he began to tell the truth.
Objection. Credibility vouching.
The objection sustained. The jury's to disregard the witness's last comment. Thank you.
Investigator, would it be fair to say that the point at which he started talking about stealing money from his employer and paying Ms. Bergfeld with that money was the point that you told him you didn't believe his other story?
That is correct.
Okay. Now, you don't, from your review of your report, you don't specifically remember the number of times he talked about having sex with her in Durango?
I don't recall exactly. I remember talking about that. I don't. I recall overall the amount of times that he talked about having sex with her.
Fair to say sometimes a transcript would have been more helpful?
It would have been, yes.
No further questions.
Ms. Smith, redirect?
No, nothing.
No. Is the witness still under subpoena by either party? And if so, do you wish for him to continue to be under subpoena? Ms. Smith?
Yes, and yes.
Okay. Thank you. If you're still under subpoena, please stay in touch with the lawyers. Thanks. Defense's next witness, please. Thank you.
Bonnie Thompson.
Thank you. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Good afternoon. If you could approach, I just need to give you an oath before you testify. We have a black cord stretched across your walkway there. Thanks. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you. If you'd have a seat in the green chair for us, please. Thank you. And you can proceed with your direct whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hi, can you please state your name?
my name is Bonnie Thompson,
How do you spell Thompson?
Thompson.
And do you know Stephen Heald?
I do.
How do you know him?
I was married to him and I currently live with him.
How long have you known him?
Since 1993.
And when were you married?
In 99
Until when?
until 2007, I believe.
So obviously you divorced him in 2007? And together?
We started living together again a little over a year ago.
And did you begin to reconcile your relationship prior to that?
Yes.
And when was that?
I don't know exact dates, but we started corresponding. He obviously wasn't around.
Okay. Did you start corresponding when he was in prison?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know about when that was?
Well, I believe he was in jail starting in 2007 and then went to prison from there, so he was basically confined.
Okay. Did you start to reconcile with him then around 2008?
That would probably be right.
Okay.
I don't know whether it's how you define that,
How I define which?
reconcile.
Okay, well, I guess that's what I'm asking you, is you guys moved back in together about a year ago, right?
Yes.
Okay, but prior to moving in a year ago, did you start to rebuild your relationship, or did you just move him in without?
No, we started rebuilding our
Okay.
relationship.
So I guess my question then is, when did you start to rebuild your relationship?
Probably about in 2008.
Okay, all right. Do you remember when Paige Bergfeld went missing?
Yes.
Did law enforcement come to your work office in Delta around that same time?
They did.
And do you recall, was this, I know it's tricky, but do you recall if this was August 14th of 2007?
It was, I believe, in August of 2007.
Okay.
If it was August 14th, I'm not sure.
When you were speaking with law enforcement at your office in Delta, what was your understanding about where Mr. Heald was?
My understanding from them is that they were talking to him up here.
Okay. And did you know prior to law enforcement coming to see you that Mr. Heald would be talking to law enforcement himself?
No.
Okay. Did law enforcement at that time, when they saw you in Delta, provide you with a lot of information about Mr. Heald that you didn't already know?
That would be right.
So at that point, when law enforcement came to see you in Delta, did you know that Mr. Heald was paying Ms. Bergfeld for sex?
No.
Did you know that he was stealing from his company to do that?
No.
When Mr. Heald came home that night, let me ask you this. When Mr. Heald returned home that night, then did he disclose to you what law enforcement had disclosed to you?
Yes.
What did Mr. Heald go with you?
No, he did not.
What did Mr. Heald tell you he was doing that Saturday while you were with your sick parents?
You mean when I would talk to him during the day on that Saturday?
Yeah.
He just said he was hanging out at the house and fishing and,
Okay. He didn't tell you he'd gone to Black Hawk to
No.
gamble? When law enforcement came to talk to you about Mr. Heald and Ms. Bergfeld, did they tell you, and these are just yes or no questions, these are just yes or no questions. Did they tell you how many times your husband had been with Ms. Bergfeld?
yes,
You're not sure, maybe, or?
they told me he'd been with her. I don't know whether they told me exactly how many times or,
Okay.
I know you're asking a yes or no question.
Not a yes or no answer. Well, I just wanted to know, I'm trying to get at how much detail law enforcement shared with you. Like, for example, did they share with you the amount of times that that Mr. Heald had been with Ms. Bergfeld?
I don't remember them doing that.
Okay. What about, did they tell you how many times he had called her?
I don't remember them telling me that.
Did they tell you how long the relationship was for between Mr. Heald and Ms. Bergfeld?
I don't remember.
Did they tell you about the extent of Mr. Heald's feelings for Ms. Bergfeld and the nature of their relationship outside of the sexual part?
No.
Did they search your home at the same time you were interviewed?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Do you think that you would probably know that? I mean, So do you think that law enforcement could have searched your home without your knowledge?
I think they probably could have.
Okay. Did you have any indication that law enforcement was searching your home while you were talking to them?
No.
Okay. Did law enforcement seize your car and search it for this case?
No. It's my car.
Would you say?
It's my car.
Okay, so to you, does that strike you as odd that law enforcement would search your car for this case?
Yes.
Okay. Did they come back a week later after this interview and search your house, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
Was there any indication that they had returned a week later to search your house?
Not that I know of.
And did they return to your business the next day after your first interview you and re-interview you?
No.
Did they come back a few weeks later and re-interview you?
No.
Did they come back a few months and re-interview you?
They called me.
Okay, they called you. Do you specifically remember June 28th of 2007?
What was June 28th as far as day of the week?
Well, let me just start by asking you if you remember what happened on June 28th, 2007 in your life.
I would know better if I knew the day of the week that was.
Okay, so if I tell you it was a Thursday, does
Okay.
that help you?
Yes.
Okay,
Back in those days, I lived by a planner.
sure.
And so I would know more the day of the week than the date.
Oh, I
Does that
see.
make sense?
Yeah,
I worked that day. I went home. Steve and I had dinner together. I was leaving the next day to go to Albuquerque. It was a
okay,
normal evening.
sure, okay. And then what about July 1st of 2007? Do you remember what you were doing that evening?
I was driving home. I believe that's Sunday, right?
Yes.
I was driving home. We had dinner together. That was a
Okay.
normal Sunday evening.
So it sounds like, based on some of your habits and routines, if you know what day of the week it is, you can say what you probably did that day, right?
Well, plus I had a planner that let me know that.
Oh, yeah, your planner, okay. I want to ask you about your planner here. When law enforcement came to talk to you in mid-August of 2007, they asked you about that weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when they talked to you about that weekend, you didn't, right when they first talked to you, you didn't have your planner handy, right?
Well, it was there, yeah.
Okay, I guess what I mean by handy is you had to go get it and look at it, right?
Well, it was literally like over there.
Okay. Okay, so you didn't have to go get it and look at it.
Well, I mean, it was right there. I was in my office.
Okay.
It was right there.
When law enforcement asked you about what you were doing the weekend Ms. Bergfeld went missing, you couldn't remember without referring back to your planner. Is that true?
I wanted to be accurate.
Okay. So is it your testimony that, okay. Well, let me ask you this, Ms. Thompson. When law enforcement was talking to you, did you remember which weekend you had gone to Albuquerque, or did you just remember that around that time you had gone to Albuquerque?
Well, it was in my planner, so I knew exactly that that's the weekend I had gone to Albuquerque.
Okay, but when law enforcement first asked you about that weekend, you were going off your memory, right? And then you...
I knew I had gone to Albuquerque, and I said, but I can confirm that.
Okay, but you didn't know that you'd gone to Albuquerque that weekend. You didn't know for sure it was that weekend until you looked at your planner.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to the leading nature of the questions.
Ms. Smith?
I have no response.
Okay, the objection sustained.
Okay, so I guess I just want to clarify, Ms. Thompson. When law enforcement, what did you say? When law enforcement first asked you about that weekend, were you able to recollect?
I think I probably said, I think I went to Albuquerque that weekend, because I remember going and wanting to be back before 4th of July and all of that hit.
Okay. Was the evening, do you remember on June 28th, do you remember that you had dinner and watched TV and just hung out?
Yes.
Okay. And so that's what you do on a lot of nights, right?
Right.
And similar to Sunday, July 1st, you had dinner with your husband.
Yes.
And is that also something that you frequently did back then?
Yes.
Did you first begin your relationship with Mr. Heald when he was in prison?
No.
Okay. Was it after?
No.
Oh, was it before?
Yes,
Okay. And so you began your relationship with Mr. Heald before the first time he went to
Yes.
prison? Okay. But you didn't end it when he went to prison the first time?
no,
And then did you stay married to him when he got arrested for his second fraud case?
I did.
And then did you stay married to him when you found out about Ms. Bergfeld?
Yes,
And then it sounds like after he was arrested on his second case and off to prison, that's when you divorced him?
I divorced him in August, or started the proceedings in August.
Okay, so not too long after law enforcement paid you a visit, then you
Yes,
started the divorce proceeding. But it wasn't precisely about Ms. Bergfeld that made you file divorce?
no,
And then about a year later, in 2008, you started to rebuild the relationship?
I would describe it as started corresponding with him.
Okay, started corresponding, all right. I'm sorry to overstate it. Then, once you started to correspond with him in 2008, how did your relationship with him then develop from there?
We just would talk, write letters.
Okay. And then he got out?
Yes,
And then, did you join up with him then when he got out in the Denver area?
I would visit with him, yes.
Okay, and then did you eventually move there?
I did.
Would it be fair to say, Mrs. Thompson, that you have stuck with Mr. Heald through thick and thin?
I'm committed to him.
Okay, you're committed to him. Are you committed to him 100%?
I'll just say I'm committed to him.
Okay. So you indicated that you had 2 communications with law enforcement about this case, one in August of '07, and then they called you again a few months later, like in 2008-ish?
No, it would have still been in 2007.
Oh, okay. Okay. But at any rate, when they contacted you the second time, it was after he was already in prison, right?
Yes,
And at that point, they asked you for any new information about Mr. Heald's involvement with Ms. Bergfeld?
yes,
So, when they talked to you the first time, you provided them with an alibi, right?
I told him what had happened, where I was, where he was.
Okay. And then, and at that point, your marriage wasn't great, was it?
No,
Now, Ms. Thompson, do you know that it's a crime to lie to the police and obstruct an investigation?
yes,
And so, are you aware that if you told law enforcement one thing in the beginning of the investigation and then changed your story later on, you could get in trouble, right?
Yes.
So even if Mr. Heald is long gone and he's in prison, if you had, in your second conversation, said that your alibi wasn't accurate, you realize that that could have gotten you in some trouble.
I wouldn't have done that if I knew that that's where he was.
Okay, you knew he was home with you? you
Yes.
mean? Okay. And you recognize now, after all of these years and after the sheriff's office and the district attorney has charged Mr. Jones, that if you reneged on the alibi information, you could get in trouble.
Your Honor, again, I'm going to object to the leading nature of the questions.
Okay, I can rephrase.
The objection sustained. You can rephrase if you wish.
Okay. What is your understanding of what would happen, Ms. Thompson, if 9 years later, after the district attorney's office has charged Mr. Jones, you now say, I didn't give accurate information back in August of '07 about Mr. Heald's
I
allegation?
wouldn't do that.
Okay. I know you wouldn't do that.
I know what happened, and there's no reason for it to change.
Okay.
Just because somebody's been arrested or whatever. I know I was there, he was there, there's nothing else to say.
Okay. But the question is do you know what would happen if you changed your story?
Well, I don't know.
You don't know.
Maybe I'd be arrested. I don't know.
Okay.
It depends. I don't see the law as totally black and white.
Okay. So maybe you would get away with it?
No.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else.
Mr. Wade, do you have questions for the witness?
I have a few, Judge.
Cross? Okay, thank you. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Ms. Thompson.
Hello.
Ms. Thompson, I want to take you back to around the time that Paige Bergfeld disappeared. At that point, what was your occupation?
I was a counselor.
Okay, and did you have a counseling business of your own?
I had my own private practice, yes.
Okay, were there other therapists in with you, or were you the only?
I was the only one.
Okay. When the officers showed up at your, they showed up to interview you at your counseling office?
They did.
When they showed up at your counseling office, had they told you that they were coming?
No.
Okay. You said you lived by a planner. Did you typically put your appointments in a planner?
I did.
That would have been one of those things that wasn't in your planner, is
It
them
was-
showing up?
No.
Okay. When they showed up, were you able to talk to them right away?
I was with a client when they showed up. I came out. They were sitting in my waiting room. And I actually thought they were my next clients because I hadn't met them before.
Okay. And you found out that they weren't?
Yes.
Did you go ahead and take another client before you talked to them, or do you remember?
I finished with the client I had because I could hear when somebody came into my waiting room.
Okay.
And I went out and said, I'm running late, and went back in and finished with my client.
Okay. When they talked to you, were they talking to you and asking you questions about a specific period of time?
You mean about?
About
Yes.
about the time of the disappearance?
Yes.
Okay. And were you able to refresh your memory of what was going on in your life by checking your planner at that time?
Yes.
And you were able to check the planner immediately?
Yes.
When you checked your planner, what did you determine that you were doing on the days June 28th through July 1st?
I was at home on the 28th. Steve was there. We had dinner together. We watched TV, went to bed in the morning, got up. He got ready for work. I got ready to leave. I left for Albuquerque, talked to him a few times on the way to Albuquerque, spent the weekend with my parents, got up on Sunday morning, had breakfast with them, and then got on the road.
Did you get on the road fairly early in the day to
Yes,
come
because
home?
I don't like to drive over the mountains and when it's dark and through the Indian reservation and all of that.
Okay. When you got home, did Mr. Heald have dinner waiting for you?
He did.
Okay. And that was on Sunday, July 1st?
That was on Sunday.
Did you spend the evening together?
Yes, we did.
Did Mr. Heald leave at any time the previous Thursday night, June 28th?
No,
Did he leave the house at any time Sunday night, July 1st?
no.
Okay. Now, at the time law enforcement showed up, you were completely unaware of this relationship he had with Paige Bergfeld.
That's correct.
Law enforcement filled you in on a few of those details.
Yes,
They told you that he'd been seeing Paige Bergfeld.
yes,
They told you that she was an escort and that he had been paying her for sex.
yes.
At the time they were telling you these things, was your relationship with Mr. Heald already strained?
Yes,
Based on what?
based on the charges he was facing in Delta County.
Okay. He was facing some significant felony charges
Yes.
in Mesa, in Delta County. Were you aware of what was going on in that case and what he was likely to receive as a
Yes.
sentence? And was that a strain on your relationship with him?
Yes, it was.
Fair to say that at that point you were not entirely trusting of him?
That would be right.
After the officers told you what he'd been doing with Ms. Bergfeld, did that add to your distrust?
It did.
Okay. He testified, I believe he testified that that evening, did he come home that evening? And
He did.
did you have a discussion about?
We did.
Okay. How did that discussion go?
Not well.
Okay.
I mean, it was good to talk,
Good to get it out?
even though, yeah, even though there was a lot of anger.
A lot of anger, a lot of frustration? Mm-hmm. Okay. Was there, did he have a mental health issue about a week later?
Yes, he did.
And what was that?
He tried to suicide.
Okay. That was around the 20th or so of August of 2007? Does that sound
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Okay. And immediately after that, was he then put back into custody and jail?
Yes.
Okay. Did you then go ahead and file divorce papers?
I did.
And you served him with the divorce papers while he was in jail?
Yes.
Did he ever get out of jail at that point, or did he
No.
go on from jail to prison?
He went on.
Okay. You had talked earlier with Ms. Smith about the fact that law enforcement had come back and talked to you later on in the process.
Yes.
That was after the divorce,
Yes.
after he'd been sent to prison, and they came back and asked you some further questions about Mr. Heald.
Yes.
Did you tell him anything different
No.
on that date with respect to what had happened on the weekend of Paige Bergfeld's disappearance? Okay. Had Mr. Heald told you anything about, had he admitted to you that he had paid for sex?
Yes.
By then?
Yes.
Okay. Had he told you that he was not involved in any way in her disappearance?
Yes.
Okay. And did you tell law enforcement anything different than that at that point?
No.
At the point at which he gets home from having talked to the sheriff's office on the same day you were talking to him down in Delta, you guys have this conversation. At that point, every reason in the world to throw him under the bus, wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
Instead, what did you tell law enforcement?
When they were talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
I said he and I were together. We spent the evening together. He was there Sunday night when I came home. I talked to him several times over the weekend.
And you told him that because that's what happened?
Yes.
Nothing else, Your Honor. Thank you.
Redirect, Ms. Smith? You're welcome.
Ms. Thompson, those details that you recounted with Mr. Waite about that Thursday, having dinner with Mr. Heald, going to bed, getting up the next day and leaving, those weren't in your day planner, right?
No, but I know that's what, it wasn't that far, it wasn't almost 10 years later.
Right,
It
I
was
know.
not very far later.
Okay, about 6 weeks?
Yeah, but, you know, I knew exactly once I looked at my planner where I'd been, where he'd been.
Sure.
What we'd been doing, because that's how I think. I was a counselor. I remember details like that.
Okay. Did you also know that you, could you also remember those details? Because those are the sorts of details that you go through, you know, every Thursday night and every Friday morning.
I remembered them.
Okay. Now, with Mr. Waite, you recollected that law enforcement showed up kind of in between your counseling sessions, right?
Yes.
And did you talk to them in between, did you talk to them in between two clients and then again after one client? Do you see what I'm
Yes.
saying? Okay. And when you talked to them the first time, did they ask you if you had been out of the area on any trips during the last few months?
I don't remember that specific question.
Okay. Do you remember then saying to them that you had gone to visit your ailing parents in Albuquerque, New Mexico recently, but off the top of your head, you didn't recall exactly when that trip occurred?
Well, I knew it would have been around that time, but I don't know what I said.
Okay, so you don't remember saying that to them, that you couldn't remember off the top of your head when it occurred?
Like I said, I knew that if I looked at my planner, I could be accurate about that answer.
I know.
And I wanted to be accurate.
I know, but the question is, what I'm trying to get at is, I know what you did and what you think you did. The question is did you tell law enforcement that you couldn't remember off the top of your head?
I don't remember if I said those words.
Do you remember then going to check your day planner? Let me back up. Then, after that conversation about recent trips, then do you remember having your next client show up and law enforcement having to wait for
Yes.
you? Okay. And then wasn't it after that session that you then got your day planner to?
I can't tell you the order
Confirm.
of that.
Okay. So you're not sure, you can't exactly say what part of the conversation with law enforcement you went and confirmed everything with your day planner?
Well, I know when they brought it up, I said, can I look at my planner? And they said, yes.
Okay.
So it was instant.
Instant. It wasn't in between us. It
I don't
wasn't-
think so.
There was
I
no
don't-
session in between, to your recollection?
From the time they brought it up and until I looked at it, I don't think so.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Mr. Waite, anything else?
Nothing based on that, Judge.
Is she still under subpoena, and if so, is she released from her subpoena? Ms. Smith?
She is under subpoena. We would not like to release her yet.
Okay, thank you. You're still under
Thank you.
subpoena, just stay in touch with the lawyers, but you're free to go at this point.
Thank you.
Another defense witness by agreement of the parties?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes, thanks.
The defense calls David here.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you could approach, I need to give you an oath before you testify, and we have a black cord stretched out across there. Thank you. You raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you, sir. If you have a seat in the green chair, please. And then you can begin with your direct whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Heald, can you say your name?
David Heald,
And how do you spell your last name?
Heald.
And what is it that you do for a living?
I work for the Mace County Telephone Directory.
Do you live here in Grand Junction?
I do.
Do you know Stephen Heald?
Yes, I do.
How do you know him?
He's my father.
And briefly, how is your relationship with your father?
Not good.
In the summer of 2007, did you have contact with your father?
I did.
Okay, and would you have somewhat regular contact with him, either by phone or in person?
Yes, ma'am.
And was it a little better then, your relationship with him, than it is now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any specific recollection of seeing him or talking to him on the phone the evening of June 28th, 2007?
No, I do not.
What about July 1st of 2007?
No, I do not.
Okay, can you provide any sort of alibi information for your dad the night Ms. Bergfeld went missing?
No, ma'am, I cannot.
What about the night her car caught on fire?
No, ma'am.
Were you actually part of the search for Ms. Bergfeld?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that with Ms. Fluke and the Abby and Jennifer recovery program?
Yes.
Did you decide it was best to stop that work when you found out your father was a suspect in this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that because you didn't want to do anything that would potentially jeopardize the investigation, or?
Yes, ma'am. And it's quite embarrassing when you find something like this out about your father.
Okay. As the investigation around your father and Ms. Bergfeld was unfolding, did you learn that he had given you different information than you were learning from other sources?
I wouldn't say it was different. I just would say he never really told me the truth about his involvement with her.
Okay. What, okay, so did you eventually talk to law enforcement about this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did they provide you information that was different than what your father had provided you?
I don't think they gave me any information about his involvement with her, to be quite honest. I think
Okay.
the way I learned about his involvement with her was from my stepmother, Bonnie.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I got that confused. What had, prior to Ms. Thompson talking to you about this situation, what had your father told you his relationship with Ms. Bergfeld was?
He said that he was buying Pampered Chef things from her and that she was cleaning homes for Blue Star Industries, which was the company that he worked for at the time.
Okay. Did you tell your dad that you were working on the search?
Yes, ma'am.
And at that time, did he ask you about being involved in the search?
Maybe briefly.
Okay. Did you think that it was a little suspicious that he was asking you?
Not at the time, no.
Okay. But isn't that what you told law enforcement, is that you thought it was a little suspicious when your dad asked you about being involved in the search for Ms. Bergfeld?
If you look at the transcript, yeah, it says that I thought it might be a little suspicious, but I guess you could say I thought it was a little suspicious.
So you learned differing information from Ms. Thompson. Did your dad ever follow up with you and tell you different or additional information about his relationship with Ms. Bergfeld?
No, ma'am. The last contact I had with my father was probably, if I could flip that piece of paper over and tell you, the day before I went to Delta after he tried to commit suicide.
Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to look at the date on that paper? Mr. Heald, can I stop you real quick? Let me just ask you a quick question. Would it refresh your recollection to look at?
Sure, just the date.
Okay. Is that okay if Mr. Heald just looks at the date to refresh his?
Mr. Wade?
No.
Okay, yeah.
All right,
take a look
that's
at
fine.
that.
Thank you for asking.
The last contact I probably had with Steve, and I can't tell you exactly for sure, was on 8/19 of 2007.
Okay. Have you known your father your entire life?
As long as I can remember, yes.
Okay. And you weren't estranged from him the entire time, right?
No, ma'am, I was not.
What is your opinion about your father's character for truthfulness?
He is very untrustworthy.
Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Wade?
Just very briefly.
Okay, just for the record, cross-examination.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Heald, it's fair to say that your relationship with your father has been non-existent for a number of years now.
Yes, sir.
And that is largely due to the past lies and past bad behavior that he engaged in?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You haven't had any contact with him, it sounds like, for the better part of 9 years?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else.
Ms. Smith, any other questions?
No, thank you, and this witness can be released on this.
Any objection, Mr. Wade?
No objection.
All right, thank you, sir. You're released from your subpoena, free to go. Thank you. The defendant's next witness, please.
We have 1 second.
Yes, sir, thanks. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes, thanks. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you'll just be careful of this black cord, and then I need to give you an oath before you testify. Yes, sir. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, sir, I do. All right, thank you, sir. If you can have a seat in the green chair, please. Thank you. Ms. Smith, you can begin with your direct whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. May.
I'll pull it up.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon.
Can you state your name?
Don May,
How do you spell May?
M-A-Y,
And where do you live?
in Grand Junction, 2199 Fernwood Court.
And how long have you lived here in Grand Junction?
16 years.
Okay. And so when did you move here?
Well, 2000 about.
Oh, right. Okay, of course. And are you retired?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know Stephen Heald?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you know him?
I met Mr. Heald through a housing project out of Delta County. After he got released from jail, he was hired by West Central Housing Development Organization. And that's just a branch off of Delta Housing somewhere or other. And they hired him to run some housing, some rehabilitation, low rental, I don't know what all was involved. My wife and I donated 6-7 acres of ground for senior housing in Paonia, Colorado, and they put him in charge to do that, among other things that were ongoing. And I met him, he came to Paonia when they hired him.
Okay. So that, when did you know, so what about, what years was this about?
Gotta get my cheat sheet.
Okay, would your cheat sheet refresh your recollection?
Yes.
May the witness look at his cheat sheet to refresh his recollection about
An
dates.
objection, Mr. Rubenstein?
No objection, Your Honor.
That's fine, thank you, sir. And then maybe if you could pull the microphone just a little bit down, it's a directional microphone, so it should bend a little bit for you, and if
How's that?
perfect, thank you so much.
Okay. I'm sorry, ask again, what?
What the years were where you were involved in business dealings with Mr. Heald?
We started with the program in 1998, 1999, and we started construction in 2000.
Okay. And when did you stop being in touch with Mr. Heald about, would you say?
I think I'm pretty close on that. I read in the newspaper that he was
I'm
fired.
going to object to this as hearsay.
So,
Ms. Smith, do you want to respond to the objection?
no.
All right, the objection's sustained then.
So, Mr. Heald, I just need to know, based on your memory, the best that you can, maybe how many years you knew Mr. Heald from the time the company, from the time you met him through that West Central Housing?
5, 6 years.
Okay, thank you. Now, this is why I got confused earlier. Prior to living in Grand Junction, where did you live?
In Paonia.
Okay, so you met Mr. Heald when you lived in Paonia?
Yes, ma'am.
Got it, okay. Now, during your time with this business, this land, I'm sorry, I'm not very good at real estate terminology, but during this period of time when you donated the land to the company Mr. Heald was working for, did you once meet Mr. Heald off of Highway 50?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And where off of Highway 50 did you meet him?
Well, we set it up. He was busy the day that he said he needed the money, and I had something to do. So we agreed that we would meet somewhere in between. And there's a road that goes, a couple roads, I think, that go down to the river. And there's a pull-off where you can stop right there by the highway. And Bridgeport Road was the one he suggested. He said that's exactly halfway between. So it was Bridgeport Road where we agreed to meet, and I was to give him some more money.
Okay. So you said halfway between, did you mean halfway between Delta and Grand Junction?
No, it was halfway between Paonia
And Grand Junction?
and Montrose. Halfway between, no, I'm sorry, honey. Grand Junction and Delta.
Okay.
He lived in Delta, we lived in Grand Junction.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. And you said it was because he needed money. So what did you meet up with him for?
Well, as the project wound down, he was short of money and told me that it wouldn't finish unless he got more money. And he had gotten all the money the state was going to give him, all that the county was going to give him, and I was his last resort.
And you agreed to give him
I
money?
agreed.
Was this a brief meeting?
Yeah, pretty brief. Well, we had talked about the details pretty much on the phone before, over a period of time.
Okay.
And so it was pretty brief, yes. We had the amounts figured, and so all it was going to be was I was going to sign the checks and give them to him.
Okay. During this brief meeting, when you're just writing checks to give to him, did Mr. Heald make a strange comment to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what was that comment?
Well, as we were talking business, just kind of out of the blue, he turned, our cars were facing the road, the highway, and he was in my pickup. And he turned around and said, just back down that road, he said there was a woman killed, thrown in the river, and they never found out who did it.
And was he pointing towards the Gunnison River?
Yes, ma'am.
Did this comment to you, did it appear to just come out of the blue?
It came out of some color because there was no need for, I don't know where it came from.
Okay, but you weren't talking about crimes that occurred or murders or anything like that?
No, we were talking business.
Okay. How did this statement, when he made this statement, affect you?
Oh. Well, I guess it startled me.
Okay.
It's
Did
as
it,
good a word as any.
would you say it alarmed you?
Yes. It alarmed me in the way that, why would he say that?
And did it stick in your memory all these years?
Yes, ma'am.
So, oh yeah, I gotta ask you, Mr. May, when was this that you met up with Mr. Heald?
Here's the cheat sheet again. It was October 31st, 2001.
Okay. Do you remember when Paige Bergfeld went missing?
No, I read it in the paper, but I don't know.
Okay, yeah, I'm not asking for a date or anything, but was this meeting with Mr. Heald prior to her disappearance? You're not sure?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, let's see. I'm sure you folks know that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I was just wondering if you happen to know.
No,
Okay.
I don't know.
Now, did you eventually report this comment that Mr. Heald made to you to law enforcement?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did you do that?
That was, I have it written down here, it was sometime in June of 2012.
Okay, and do you recall what made you think that that was something worth reporting to law enforcement?
Well, after I got the shakeout that I did, I read a lot about Steve Heald. I went to the library, and I got information from the Delta Sheriff. Everywhere I could get information about Mr. Heald, I tried to get it.
Okay,
So things happened over all those years.
okay, you were sort of following him in the
Yes,
news?
ma'am.
Okay, and so he made the statement to you in 2001, and you reported it in 2012. So is it fair to say something triggered you to report it 11 years later, right?
Yeah, as
Okay.
things were pointing toward Mr. Heald, and some of the things that had been reported in the paper and that were serious, bad stuff, I figure I should let somebody know.
Okay.
Because it's odd that he knew that ground between Grand Junction and Delta like the back of his hand. And why would he make a statement to me that they never found out who it was? He had been following the paper and would have known that there was somebody already in jail for that.
I see.
Objection, Your Honor, I'm going to ask that that be stricken as speculation.
I'm sorry?
Just the part about him knowing that somebody would be in jail.
Yes, sir.
Did you want to respond?
No.
The objection sustained. The jury's to disregard just that part of the last testimony. Thank you.
Okay, so you were aware that Mr. Heald knew a lot about Delta County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you thought it was worth getting that information to law enforcement at
Yes.
that time? Okay.
Yes.
And what is your opinion about Mr. Heald's character for truthfulness?
You probably object again, but he, I think, he treats people as if they're stupid.
Judge, I move to object.
I don't-
Stricken. He's permitted to give opinions in very limited areas, and that's not one of them.
My
Do you want to
opinion of
respond, Ms.
Steve,
Smith?
No, Your Honor, I have
All
no
right, the
response.
objection sustained. You can try to rephrase if
Okay,
you wish.
thank you. So, Mr. May, I know that you have a lot of thoughts and opinions on Mr. Heald, but what I have to ask you very specifically for this trial here is what is your opinion about whether or not Mr. Heald is a truthful person or not? Just on truthfulness.
he's very untrue. He does not tell the truth a lot of the time. And I know that for a fact because he's lied to me over and over again. He had me fooled. I didn't know he was doing it.
Okay.
He's smart, but he's a liar.
Okay. All right. I have nothing else. Thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein, cross-examination, please.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon.
You're familiar with the Kenneth Botham murders?
Not really, no. I have read them, I know the name, but I'm not that familiar with them, I wouldn't say.
You're familiar that that's one of the most notorious murders in western Colorado history?
I wasn't here, sir, and I guess I know that now, maybe, but I didn't know it then.
That's the woman that was killed and thrown into the river at Bridgeport Road, right?
Objection, counsel is testifying.
The objection's overruled. He's allowed to lead on cross, so you can go ahead.
Mr. May, you're aware that that's the woman that was killed and thrown into the river at Bridgeport Road?
Yes, sir.
And you're aware that that's one of the most notorious murders in western Colorado history? The Botham case, you're aware of that?
Yes,
Okay. And the road that was happening at, you would agree, the three guys were parked having this transaction, right?
on Bridgeport Road, yes.
Yes.
Was where the transaction was.
Okay. And the conversation you had with Mr. Heald when he told you that if Miss Bergfeld went missing in June, at the end of June of 2007, you're having this conversation with Mr. Heald about 6 years earlier. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Smith, redirect, please.
I have no follow-up.
Nothing else? Does the witness need to be under subpoena, or is he released? Ms. Smith?
He's released.
Mr. Rubenstein? All right, thank you, sir. You're released from your subpoena, free to go. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The defense's next witness, Ms.
Yes,
Smith?
Your Honor, the defense is going to call Kathryn Dory.
Okay, thank you.
With your permission, Judge, I'll step out and give the story.
Okay, thank you. Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thanks. Good afternoon. We have a black cord stretched across your walkway, and then if you could raise your right hand when you're ready, I'll give you an oath. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right, thank you. You can have a seat in the green chair, please. And if you wouldn't mind pointing the microphone down towards your mouth, that'd be helpful to us. Thank you so much. And then you can proceed whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hi,
Hi, can you state your name?
Kathryn Dory,
How do you spell Kathryn?
Catherine
And how do you spell Dory?
Dory.
And where do you live?
Currently in San Angelo, Texas,
And where did you live in the summer of 2007?
at 2260 Paintbrush Court, Grand Junction.
Okay. Do you remember when Paige Bergfeld went missing?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember talking to law enforcement in July 2007 in regard to her case?
Yes,
And did you specifically talk to them about being in the area of a car accident at GN 23 Road.
Yes, I did.
Was this in response to a bulletin that the sheriff's office had put out asking for people to call in if they had witnessed anything in that area of the accident?
Yes.
Did you call in?
Yes, I did.
Did you call in because you thought you might have some helpful information to provide?
Yes.
And did you provide that information?
Yes.
Was it in regard to a red car that you had seen in that area of the
Objection
accident?
leading.
The objection's overruled.
Okay, thank you. I think I was asking you, Ms. Dory, if you talked to law enforcement about a red car that you'd seen in the area.
Yes, when I was coming home from work, I always take G or H Road to get home. And when I came to G and almost got to G and 23 Road, there was an accident and I had to turn a detour. And when I detoured, I think it was 23 and 2/10 Road. When I went up it, I saw a red car on the next road, and it just struck me odd because they were going east, and it's a dead-end road. And I thought to myself, well, they're going to just have to turn around. But it was a little red car, and I remembered that was what they had put out about Paige's car.
Okay. So so when you say the car was headed east on a dead-end road, do you mean that it was headed towards that dead end?
Yes.
Okay. And that struck you as odd, right? Mm-hmm. You have to say yes or no.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So when you got the bulletin, or when you heard that law enforcement was seeking information, did that odd situation come into your mind?
Yes.
Okay, and that was the information you wanted to provide?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well, what time were you in the area?
I usually got off of work about 5:30, and I may have run some errands. It was between 6 and 7.
Okay.
But I remember that they were making us detour still.
Okay. And okay, 1 second.
The sun was setting, so I don't know if you can look back and tell what time that was.
Okay.
Back that many years ago.
Okay. Let's see. So this was the end of June, right? 2007?
But yes.
Okay. And you think the sun was setting?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But didn't you tell law enforcement you thought maybe it was 6:30 or 7?
I'm sorry, it's been so many years, and I know that I get off work at 5:30 or 6, and I know that I normally do errands, so yes, it would probably between 6:30 and 7.
Okay, so maybe the sun wasn't quite setting?
No. When I'm saying setting, it's like it's not in my face,
Oh, I see.
or I mean.
A little bit later?
Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Okay. What do you remember about the car you saw?
Honestly, I can't remember that much. I just remember, I don't even remember if it had 2 doors or 4 doors. And I've never been good at what make and model a car is, and unless it's exactly like mine. Mm-hmm. I just remember that it was a little red car, and I didn't even see anyone who was in it, if there was more than one person, if it was a man or woman, because of the time of day, and it was going in the opposite direction that I needed to go.
Oh, I see.
And it just struck me odd because, like I said, I thought they're just going to have to turn around because it's a dead-end street. And then when they did the bulletin, I thought, oh, her car was red.
I see, okay. Did you get any license plate information on the car?
No, ma'am.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
I have here what's marked as Defendant's Exhibit Quadruple A, right?
Correct.
Is this a map of that area where the accident was, GN23?
Yes,
And does this map have a red dot on it?
yes,
Is the red dot about where you saw the car?
yes,
Okay, and when I say the car, the red car going east on a dead end?
yes.
Okay. Let's see here. I'm gonna leave this pen with you. Can you write on that, Ms. Dory? Oh, boy. Okay, can you write on that, Ms. Dory? What did we decide between 6:30 and 7 PM?
Yes, to the
Okay.
best of my memory. It's been 9 years.
Sure, yeah.
So,
And the defense moves to introduce this map.
What's the exhibit, please?
Quadruple A.
Any objection to quadruple A?
I just asked voir dire because I'm not sure if she was specific that that was her recollection of the time versus sunset. I would just ask the voir dire on that.
Okay, that's fine.
it's in my statement to the police officer.
Okay, may I voir dire, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Would looking at that help refresh your memory?
I have it in my purse.
So, ma'am,
Yes, it says that it was about 6:30 to 7.
and then right after that it says, and the sun was just beginning to set, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I guess, Judge, I would not object as long as she says 6:30 to 7 and the sun was just beginning to set, I think is her best description.
Do you have an objection?
No, not at all.
Okay, so if
Do you want
could
me to
just-
read that sentence?
Well, if you just want to add that information to where,
Okay.
I'm presuming you wrote 6:30 to 7 is requested, and then Mr. Rubenstein is requesting, and the sun was
Just beginning.
just beginning to set.
And with that, I would have no objection to introducing that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dory. So defendant's quadruple A is admitted, thank you.
Okay. Did you ever see the car that was found burned in the Walker SMS parking lot?
After I was contacted to come here, I did a Google search on the trial and saw the picture on the computer, on the web. I don't remember seeing it when we were still living here. I don't know why, but I actually didn't even remember this until it was sent to me because
Okay.
of the time. So I might have seen it in the newspaper before, but I did look at it on the computer.
Okay. And you might have seen it in the news at some point back in 2007?
Yes.
Okay.
It looked, I remembered it. I should have said, I remembered it when I looked on the computer.
Okay.
I remembered seeing that, and I remembered the case more clearly
Okay.
back then.
So my question is back in 2007, did the car that you see going the wrong way look similar enough to you that you thought you should report it?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can you say with any certainty whether the car you saw was Ms. Bergfeld's?
No, unfortunately, I can't.
Okay. I have nothing else, thank you.
Mr. Rubenstein, Cross-examination.
If I can have just a moment. Thank you, Honor. Good afternoon again, ma'am.
Hi.
So you reported this in around August 19th, is that right?
It says here I called them July the 19th.
Excuse me, July 19th.
Yeah, July
So this was like almost 3 weeks after that happened? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, it seems like the fact of the sun setting was significant enough that you reported that fact.
I honestly can't tell you if it was that significant. I mean, for me to say it, I just told him as best I knew what happened.
Sure.
And so I don't know if there was a reason that was significant.
Would it be fair to say that you're more sure about seeing the car driving around in that area than what time you saw it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
but I know that the time was very consistent when I would go home from work. So the timing, the 6:30 to 7, was very consistent with the time I would go home. So that's consistent.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
Well, you mentioned earlier that we should check to see what time the sun set during that time.
yeah.
Why did you think that?
I don't know. I actually thought about looking it up myself.
Because that would be a good time stamp to
Yeah.
stamp this by?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, nothing.
Ms. Smith,
I have no follow-up.
is she under subpoena?
She is, and she's released.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. You are released from your subpoena and free to go. Thank you. The defense's next witness.
Yes, the defense calls Keith Haynes.
Feel free to stretch if anybody wishes. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. If you could approach, I just need to give you an oath before you testify. We do have a black cord stretched out across this walkway, too. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, thank you, sir. If you'd have a seat in the green chair, please. Thank you. And then you can proceed with your direct whenever you're ready, Ms. Smith. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Haynes.
Good afternoon.
Can you state your name?
Keith Haynes,
How do you spell Haynes?
Haynes.
And where do you live?
Houston, Texas.
Where did you live in 2007?
Grand Junction.
And where did you work in 2007?
FMC Technologies.
And where was that located?
It was on Logos Drive. I don't remember the exact numbers of the address, but it was on Logos Drive.
Okay. Was it near Walker SMS?
Yes.
Okay. And was it near 23 and G Road?
Yes.
Do you remember a red car being found burned in the parking lot at Walker SMS?
I remember it being found. Yes.
Okay. Did you ever in the news, did you go look at it in person or see it in the news?
Not that I can remember.
Do you remember being questioned by law enforcement? Do you remember being questioned by law enforcement in July 7 about that car?
Very vaguely.
And would you say your memory was better in 2007 when you were being questioned than it is now?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you refresh your recollection a little bit with a police report?
Mm-hmm.
You have to say yes or no.
Yes.
Now, did you work on July 1st of 2007?
I believe I did.
Okay. And did you take your lunch break at about 8 p.m. that evening?
I believe that, yes.
And did you drive, on your lunch break, did you drive by the Walker SMS parking lot?
Yes.
Does that include like their south lot?
I don't remember.
Okay. But you were driving on 23 Road, right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you see, when you went on your lunch break at 8 p.m. That Sunday, did you see the red car in the parking lot?
No.
May I, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Haynes, I have here what's been marked as Defendant's Exhibit BBBB, right?
Yes.
Quadruple B?
Yes.
Okay. Is that a map of the area of 23 and Logos Drive?
Yes.
Is there a black dot there?
Yes.
And is that the Walker SMS parking lot?
I believe it was, yes.
Okay. Now, if that black dot represents when you didn't see the car in the parking lot, could you write at the top 8 o'clock p.m.? And was that also on Sunday, July 1st?
I believe it was. That's what the police report said.
Okay. And do you have any reason to dispute the police report?
No.
Okay. Can you also write Sunday, July 1st of '07 at the top there? The defense moves to introduce Exhibit Quadruple B as in boy.
Any objection, Mr. Wade?
Judge, before that happens, I'd like to voir dire if I could.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Haynes.
Good afternoon.
It doesn't sound like you have any independent recollection of this at all.
No.
So you're just going from what you've read off the report?
Yes, sir.
So you don't know if the car, do you know if the car was there, or do you just not remember seeing it?
I don't remember seeing it.
And so you don't know if it wasn't there, you just don't remember seeing it?
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd object to this as irrelevant if he doesn't remember seeing it.
The objection's overruled, and quadruple B as in boy is admitted.
Okay. Do you, and I'm sorry, Mr. Haynes, I've asked a lot of questions today. I can't remember if I've asked you this one. Do you remember talking to law enforcement about whether or not you saw the car there?
Very vaguely.
Okay, but you know that you did because of this report you read, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And do you think that if you were giving information to law enforcement back in the summer of '07 about whether or not you saw the car there, you were doing your best to provide law enforcement with accurate information, right?
Yes.
Yes,
sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And do you feel confident that if you had seen the car there, that would be the information you would have provided?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have nothing else. Thank you.
Cross-examination, Mr. Wade?
Yes, Judge, just briefly.
Sure.
So, Mr. Haynes, I'm just looking at this report, and do you remember talking to law enforcement?
Very vaguely.
Okay. And you don't remember anything about the situation surrounding this?
No, sir.
Okay. And if you told law enforcement that you didn't remember seeing a red car parked on the south side of Walker, that's because you don't remember seeing it, you don't know if the car was there or not?
That's correct.
Nothing else, Judge. Thank you.
Ms. Smith, redirect. Yes, thank you.
When you spoke with law enforcement back in 2007, when your memory was fresher, you didn't tell them, I have no idea whether or not it was there or not, right?
As far as I know, I didn't know.
Okay. And you didn't tell them, I wasn't looking or paying attention, so I'm not the person to ask?
No.
Okay. You provided them with the information the best information you had at that time?
And my best recollection.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Waite,
Nothing based on that.
his subpoena, Ms. Smith.
He is under subpoena and he may be released.
Any objection, Mr. Waite?
No, you're not.
All right, thank you. So you're released from your subpoena and free to go.
Thank you.
Thanks, you're welcome. Is this a good time for afternoon break, or do we have a? Sure. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go ahead and take afternoon recess for about 10 minutes. Please remember all the instructions for the recesses. We'll see you back soon. Thank you. Please rise for our jury. Our jury has left the courtroom. I'll see you back at a few minutes after 3, hopefully.
And just to let the court know, that was the last of the defense witnesses. We're ready to resume back with the
Oh, okay.
prosecution case, which is why it was a good time.
All right.
Yeah,
thank-
that's where
Thank
we're
you.
at. We're done for the day. Obviously, we'll have more defense cases at
Sure.
some point.
All right, thank you. I'll see you back in 10 minutes.